Hey church, we're back again and we're going to have an amazing conversation as we continue through our series, Stop Pretending and Get Real with Yourself. Now, I believe that life is a journey where we get the invitation to learn to love God, actually love ourselves so that we can love others. And it's not easy, and it's a big call, and we get the opportunity to express ourselves with love, to be motivated by love or other stuff, but also just to learn what it is to love. And the lesson that we're going to learn about today is actually going through the wall. So what is that? Well, the contemplatives of old would call it the darkness of the soul, or going through the wilderness, or, a desert time. But really, it's when life dishes up some hard stuff in our life and we have no control over it, and it feels like we're blinded. It feels like we're out of control. It feels like we have no say in it, and we just get to journey through this wall or this darkness, and we don't know how long before we get to the other side of the tunnel, if we get there at all. And so it's been interesting, and I have some special guests this morning, Nick Porch and Darlene Groom, and I've chosen that you would be here at this special conversation because I really honour you, and I've done some life with you. I've known you for a long time. I was trying to do the maths, but well over 30 years.
Yeah.
And Nick, I've seen you at my nephew's birthday parties as a little tacker, and sort of got to see you mature as a man, and so. Darlene, it's been a journey where I've actually seen you walk through the wall. Nick, you're going through a wall right now. And so, Darlene, you were happily married, going to have the fairy tale life.
Yeah.
Got pregnant, had a little boy. He was born prem.
Yep.
Heap of problems. So, had some difficulties 2 months early.
2 months early, and quite a few problems. He ended up getting or contracting meningitis as well. Mm-hmm. So he was in hospital for 2 months before we could bring him home. So he was, a very sick little boy, and he had to come home with added extras, sort of medication and stuff and equipment. So it wasn't a normal sort of bringing him home sort of thing.
Yeah, the normal homecoming. Yeah. And then you got pregnant with another one. It was a threatened to, that he was going to come early as well.
Yeah, it was. And so we had to have some medical intervention.
Yeah.
But it was a really difficult time at the time anyway, because sort of my marriage was already sort of a bit tricky. And and so before Jake was born, I was actually already separated.
Oh, wow.
So it was a bit sad, and there was lots of feelings and lots of stuff going on that I couldn't control, and to my best I could keep my environment to a peaceful place, but inside it was pretty hard to sort of control. Yeah. So and then of course we got divorced. Yeah. So.
And Jake, your second boy, he had some difficulties as well. Like, how old was he when that sort of started being aware of that stuff wasn't quite right with him?
Yeah, there was a few things not right, probably after round about his first birthday.
Okay.
And then by the time he was 2, he was diagnosed with a, what was it called? Global something developmental disorder. And they didn't want to say autism until he was properly organised, and sort of usually that's about 5. So we knew it was autism by the time he was 2.
Yeah, and on the spectrum, it's probably
he's
quite
severe.
Yeah. And so you had to cope with all this on your own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so, I did. So though in saying that, a village raises children, and one of the biggest gifts was having my church family. Yeah. That actually wasn't a church at the time.
Yeah.
So having some really good supportive friends and family, they are crucial.
Oh,
crucial.
Oh, that's good.
As well as having God to scream at of.
Yep, he's not afraid of that, is he? Yeah, we can be
I've
real
learned
with him.
that.
Yeah. And you, Nick, you've recently been married, had the dream connection. I think your sister set you up and found your love of your life, and then you've excited to start a family, and Lauren got pregnant, and during COVID, which was probably a bit of a challenge, you had your little girl Lucy, but you didn't a couple of days later get to go home, did you, and have the dream homecoming as well. And so what's been going on for you with that?
Yeah, well, so everything leading up to the birth was good.
Yeah.
Then after, as soon as she was born, or during the lead up to right towards the end, she had a HIE incident, which is hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. So
you do well to pronounce that.
Yeah. One of the biggest struggles of that was learning how to pronounce all those words properly. So the other, more serious struggle was learning all about it itself. So she more or less came out, she wasn't breathing.
That must have been so scary.
Yeah, it was. Didn't really know how to react. It was just shock and distress. So she was worked on for a while with CPR, and then taken straight away out to be cooled, which is something they do for 3 days to take the insult of injury off the brain. Sort of like when you get an injury on your elbow, you put ice on it. Sort of like the same for a brain. They cool your whole body.
Yeah.
Then, she had MRIs, other scans. We spent 3.5 weeks in Hobart, at the hospital there. And, all up, she was in hospital for 6 weeks before we came home. Yeah. So that whole challenge was very difficult. Just, the expectation you have of having a child in this day and age, you expect everything to go as planned. And as you say, you're home within 2 days.
Yeah, and we have all this, your modern hospitals and medicine and development and some of your peers were having babies around the same time, and they went home sort of no problems. And for you, even getting home, I've heard, like Lucy cries a fair bit. There's some lot of unknowns for you in what's the unfolding of what this means for her.
Yeah, as in is that just a normal baby cry, or is it because of the insult on her brain?
Yeah.
Because she's got some brain damage that'll affect her motor skills.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit of an unravelling over time to see how much she's affected. But lots of unknowns.
Have you found, like Darlene was, said she's sort of yelled at God, or did you say that? Yeah. Like, have you had some sort of moments with God where you're just like, God, what's happened here? Or
I've wanted to, but I came to a realization quickly that bad things happen, and it's sort of the wrong expectation in a way, like to assume that these things can't happen to you, and that when they do happen, just trust in God. And I felt like if I went down an angry path, then that would be a bit destructive on my soul. And I found that's definitely helped. It's sort of deepened my relationship with God to try and find understanding in the situation.
So it sounds to me like it was a real point of choice for you, like how you were going to either be angry at God or to choose something.
Yeah, I kind of found that that I could either go down this path of anger or try and learn from what I've read in the Bible over the years about how to deal with these situations. So I tried.
Yeah.
Still hasn't been easy.
No, but I mean, that just sounds, to me, that's an incredible choice. And to even have the ability in the time where you've just been squeezed by everything, by circumstances, obviously would have been even physically tired and emotionally pressed, to be able to dig into a resource within you, like you said, what you've learned about God, and to access that, I find that really challenging and heartwarming that God could mean that to you in that time and that you could trust him. So what would you say has been your biggest challenge, Darlene, through, because you're, a different story obviously than Nick's, but it's like, Jake's just had his 25th birthday. Yep. So, you're like way down the path of probably accepting that's, it's no there's, I know over the years we've prayed for breakthrough and that there would be, but mainly he doesn't talk, does he? He communicates in a fashion, but
So the question is,
what's been one of the biggest challenges for you?
Biggest challenges would be my own stuff sort of thing. I tend to live inside my head a lot. Also what other people project onto me. You should do this, you should try that. It's very hard when you've got a child with special needs. You've got lots of people giving you, their great advice sort of thing. And when I was younger, when it was all happening, I did everything. I did iridology, I did all of, because I felt that's what I had to do for Jake. But it was a reminder from me, and I don't know who, it was someone from church, but I don't know who said it. What's your priorities for Jake? I just want Jake to be happy and safe. And so everything that's projected onto me, any advice or comments, I basically put down, right, well, what is my priority for Jake? Because Jake is my biggest wall, because it'll never disappear. That'll stay there, because there'll be things that will come over time as he gets older. And my priorities is his safety and his well-being. And that's probably the hardest thing, is to be totally responsible. And I know I've said that to you before, being 100% responsible for someone who can't be responsible for their own life.
Yeah, and not having someone to share that with either.
Yeah, and not having someone to share that with. And as much as I said, I screamed at God at 2:00 in the morning when Jake's still awake and yelling at the computer, and I'm just so tired, and it's, this 7th night in a row or whatever, I can turn around to God and say, okay, he's yours too. It's your turn to put him to bed. And look, no word of a lie, 10, 15 minutes later, Jake's in bed asleep, and it just goes, it's like God saying, now why didn't you ask me that in the first place? So it's, but that's the wall. The hardest thing is the fact that my wall probably won't finish until I get to go up there and say, okay, God, I'm here and I'm waiting for him so I can have that conversation. Sort of thing. So but I know that God's got him. And that was a struggle, to let God have him. That I was not totally responsible, especially for his spiritual and internal stuff. So that would be my hardest.
Tough stuff. What about you, Nick? Really, it's early days, isn't it? But sure you can relate to some of that, getting tired and, some of those challenges with a newborn. So what do you think's your biggest challenge at the moment, or do you foresee?
Most likely the biggest challenge is the future. Will it be hard? Will it be easy? But then, I try not to think about that too much anyway, because, the future's in God's hands. It's like, I worry about tomorrow sort of thing. So biggest challenge is just trying to, stay strong with my wife and to be the best dad and husband I can be.
So you don't find yourself sort of dramatising or playing the future forward? You just stop yourself from doing that, or?
Yeah, I find that you just go down a worry trail. So,
yeah. But sometimes it's easier said than done, isn't it?
Yeah, like the first few weeks I was definitely doing it.
Yeah.
But it's, best not to.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. It's the best advice you can give yourself and try and follow.
Follow your own advice. Yeah. That's a good thing. So can you already start to see a few gifts or treasures in unfolding? Or
yes. Probably, it's always a gift when she smiles, so and when she's happy. And that's something we've only just, she's only just started really showing the last couple of weeks, which has been really lovely. And yeah, her herself, she's a gift, and a treasure no matter what.
That's good. Yeah, I remember Darlene often talking about the gift of Jake, and I know you've taught me a few things over the years, even how you would say just the gift of learning to see through Jake's eyes, that he would lay underneath a tree and be mesmerised by the leaves and not be worried about everything else and be present. Yeah. And so that would be one big gift, but is there some other gifts or treasures?
Other gifts of when he does things that he doesn't normally do.
Okay.
I mean, there's one that comes to mind is, Matthew grew up with him, of course, but was always separate. They were always separate. They'd play in separate areas because Jake didn't like sort of playing together with people. And one day we were walking to school and we were walking up the hill and Jake actually took Matthew's hand. And it wasn't so much Jake I was smiling at, but the look on Matthew's face when he turned around to me and said, look. Yeah, he was just, and it looked like he floated into school because Jake had actually held his hand. And it's little things like that and, cheeky things like pretending to be sick and driving home from sleepover and looking at me going, I'm not naughty. I'm not naughty, and giving these big, puppy dog eyes. So, he's given us just small things. Yeah. And I think that's what I've learned is, we can pray for Jake to be healed from autism or your gorgeous daughter to be healed completely. But sometimes it's the little prayers that you need to hold on to that are the links in the chain.
Okay.
And, just little things that you pray for. Oh, please, Lord, let him have a great day at school, or let him understand what I'm talking about. Or, for instance, there was a thing on the computer, one of the Disney things has disappeared completely. The link's gone and Jake doesn't understand. And so Matthew went up there and showed him on his phone. It's the same on my phone. It's the same on Mum's phone. Yeah. And Matthew said he went, oh. And then, he stopped screaming at the computer after 5 minutes. And we went back up there and he'd worked out, okay, so I can't have that. And so, I'd been sitting out in the lounge room saying, please, Lord, let him understand. Please, Lord, let him understand, please. And he did. Yeah. And so it's those little prayers. It's those praying for the symptoms, not the whole thing. Yeah. It's praying for the symptoms.
So do you think it's made you pray smaller prayers?
Oh, yeah.
But greater, this is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
But your gratitude or your is greater.
Yes, and it's more intentional sort of thing. The more information for me, the more information I know, that means the more information I can give God, which means my prayer means that little bit more. Or not that it means more, but that it makes me feel like, okay, I can't fix this, but this is what I can do. I can pray for this, It may come true, may not come true, but God gives me the strength to just go, it's all right. You did all you could. You did all you could. And that's the relief for me, is that if I haven't prayed for it, then I haven't done everything that I could. As soon as I've prayed for it, I've done everything I could. Yeah. So for
would
me,
that be your biggest lesson?
Oh, yeah.
Or is there some other lessons? Or
patience. the one thing I wished that I'd done when the boys were little, but it was really hard because I was on my own, is for them to hear me laugh. Because, I needed to laugh at them, but I'm not sure that they got that I was laughing, sort of thing. Yeah, I think the boys grew up, and Matthew and I have talked about it, in a house that wasn't full of laughter. So if it's one thing I can say, let her hear you laugh. So
she's been hearing it.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, no, it's the one thing I regret is that, I didn't have YouTube to watch funny cat videos.
Well, I know Nick's got a interesting sense of humour, so it hasn't stolen that from you in this moment. No. I think that picture you put up of Lucy reading some
church history,
which she chose, of course, for you to read to her. Yeah, I like that. So, So would you say that you were beginning to learn some other lessons too, Nick? Or
one I definitely came across just a couple of days after her birth was hearing about this guy's story in a podcast, and I don't know the quote off by heart, but I'll just share it.
Yeah.
It definitely helped. I turned off my phone. It definitely helped in the situation about. I'll just give my version of it.
Yeah.
About in bad situations to see past them and just try and find gratitude instead of misery in the situations. So that really helped see things in a different perspective while I was going through just the challenges of everyday stuff at the hospital.
Yeah.
Just to, keep focused on finding something that you're grateful for and working on that.
I was reading early this morning actually about gratitude, but like joy is actually more like fairy lights than like a floodlight. And so there's actually just lots and lots of little moments in our life, and gratitude and trust, we get to string them together. And so it sounds like, in your guys' stories, it's actually about identifying those little things, and they're the things that bring you joy, instead of like the overarching joy that you would have a healthy baby and bring home and do the normal things what everyone else does. So you've got to search a little bit more for them, don't you? Yeah. So do you feel like God's inviting you to a different space, perhaps through this difficult circumstance in your life?
I would say so. Definitely, I've found the idea of suffering, working on that, just to understand it a lot more inviting, I suppose, because this is the first sort of real situation in my life where I've, had to suffer for something like that's something I haven't envisaged.
Yeah.
Like I've made plenty of decisions where I've made suffering my own doing, but, this is something out of my control, and, God doesn't cause us to suffer on our own, and I've definitely found comfort in God's word, and the beginning of 2 Corinthians 1:4, I think.
Yeah.
He gives comfort to us, so then we can. This is paraphrased. He gives comfort to us, so then we can then give comfort to others who are going through struggles. And I've had this happen to me, like other believers who have had the same sort of situation happen to them with their children. They've given comfort to me, and I've really been able to learn from their situations, and it's been able to help me in it. And it's definitely something I feel I can do for other people now as well. Yeah.
So it's an interesting combination, isn't it? You're suffering, Lauren, and those around you, but also Lucy has her own suffering, the physical, like when she's crying and stuff. And it's I appreciate you sharing that, Nick. That's a big thing. Yeah. What about you, Darlene? What's been the invitation from God?
The invitation from God has been his presence, but also that he's not just in my presence. He's, Nick doesn't want to look too far in the future, and I've been there, but now I'm in that future, and so for me, it's been that I need to trust other people can look after Jake. Because I'm coming to that part where, we're looking at him moving out. We've tried it once, it did not work, and I'm suffering the consequences now. But there will be another time when it will happen, and that I'm going to have to put my faith in some other people. And the fact that God's put people out there to feel that special way about our kids, whether they're disabled or not, but especially for disabled people as they get older. And that's brought me to a place where I see God in people, not just in my own sort of little sphere, but where I see him in community, whether they go to church or not, but that I see other people through his eyes. And that's been an interesting journey.
That's a big invitation from God.
Yeah, to see their care for him, to hear the concern in their voice if something's gone wrong or what have you. That I've got builders at the house at the moment, and they are so aware of Jake. To this is for Jake. This bathroom's for Jake.
Wow.
And he, they've involved Jake, sort of thing, when they're there, and they're not scared of him because he's quite the wall.
Yeah. He has his own presence.
He has his own presence, quite
the
big presence.
Yeah.
And it's just, it gives me a sense of peace that other people can think and see Jake the way I feel and want them sort of to feel.
That's beautiful, Darlene. Yeah. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys today and just hearing a little snapshot of your stories, and I know there's so much more. There's so much more to your joy, but there's also so much more to your pain and to what you're going through and have been through. And I feel privileged that you have shared it with us today. And we really want to embrace a life here at the Rock of Stop Pretending and actually getting real with ourselves. And it takes courage to share from that deep place of where we're at. And going through the wall is that we often don't choose these circumstances. They come at us and we feel like we're in the dark. We can feel like we're blinded. But I think today we've heard about how we can trust God in those times, and we don't know how long it will be, but God is faithful and God is present in our circumstances. So thanks, church. I hope you found that encouraging, and that you too, whatever you're going through, know that God is with you. Thank you.